Let's talk about hand quilting today. Okay, I'm just threaded my needle and I'm going to come down and I don't know if you can see, I'm leaving a tail probably 2 or 3 inches, and I'm going to do where you take your needle and take your thread. And if you can see, I'm going to put it perpendicular and hold it with these 2 fingers. Go around 4 or 5 times. Okay, then I'm going to slip my fingers over that, holding those together. Take this needle and just slide that knot down the length of the thread. And that way, I don't know if you can see it, but it makes a little knot right there. I like a little shorter tail, so I'm going to clip off a little bit of that tail, because otherwise it sticks up on the top of your quilt, and I don't like that look. I like mine to be hidden, where you can't tell where I went in and out. So I'm just going to snip a little bit of that off. And then we're going to start. You can see that well, if it'll cooperate. So there's the end of that thread. Then I leave probably 10 or 12 inches of single thread. Okay. So the last one ended here. The last stitch ended here. So this new stitch coming in, I'm going to start way over here, and I want to come up right there. So I'm going to go under. I'm not going through the back. I'm just under the first fabric into the batting, and I'm going to go over, and I'm going to pop up right about where I want my stitch to be, if you could see that. And then I'm going to pull that through. And when I get to that knot, see, I wouldn't want that knot sitting on top because doesn't look well. So I'm going to pop it. And you can run your fingernail as you're pulling, and it'll help that knot. You don't want to pull too hard. There you go. Because it can break your thread. But now that knot is buried in the batting, so you don't see it on the top or the bottom. And then I'm just going to continue through here, just a straight line quilting down to the corner. When you first start quilting, it can be kind of intimidating, but really, I mean, it's your quilt, and it's not like you can mess it up because it's yours. And it's just thread. You can always take it out. I'm trying a new thimble today, and I'm having to get used to it, but you just pull it through, and as you can see, I don't go for tiny little stitches, I go for uniform. So I'm just going in, if you can see, in and rocking it. My hand underneath it pushes through, I feel the prick, then I push it back up. And I'll do several before I pull it through. So down, and my finger underneath is feeling the prick, and I'm pushing it back up. And I usually do 2 or 3. And then I'm going to push it as far as I can, and then grab it and pull it. Now, they do make some little rubber or sticky things that you can put on your finger to help grasp that needle and pull it through. I don't have any, but that would be help. So again, I'm going to go in here and up and down again. And you can see on the underside, it's just, if you can see, it's just the tip there. Just the tip of the needle, and then my finger feels that. And so then I push it back up to the top, because you don't want big stitches underneath either. You want it to be uniform. Then I pull it through. And again, we'll go down right in front of that stitch, push up, go down, push up. And this is just, I guess you could call it quilting the ditch, because we're right beside the seam, but I'm just doing a basic outline, just keeping it very simple, because we hope to have some other people join us working on this project. Let me see if I can move you to the other side, and you might could see it better without my hand in the way. Let's see if this is a better view for you. Okay. So again, I'm going to start right in front of that stitch. I'm going down till my finger feels it, and then I'm going to push it back up. And you can do, when you're first starting, you know, it's easier to do one kind of what they call a stab and stitch. You can do that. And I have seen videos where people do it on an old table and they'll push down against that table, but it will scar your table. And I'm not sure exactly how they keep it uniform, but up, push down, and I feel it and I push it back up. So it's kind of a rocking motion that you're ending up with. I'm trying to make sure I get you a pretty good angle where you can see it. So in, and I'm pushing it up. I felt the prick, and then there it is, just that little bit. And then down, and I feel the prick, and up. Now they do make little finger pads too, because honestly, when you quilt for a while, that prick that you feel to make yourself push back up, it can be painful. And sometimes you accidentally prick harder than you think. So here I am in the corner, and I'm going to go down in the corner, and then I turned, and it's kind of hard with the frame right there with the hoop. So I may do a stab and stitch. I may go under and go ahead and pull it all the way through just to get that corner, and then I'll come up. You'll see my stitch come up right where it would have if I had just kept going. So there's the needle. And now I'm going to come down this edge. So it's going to be down. And again, I've got this hoop in the way here. So I'm going to do a stab and a stitch just to get where I can angle my needle back, because it's kind of hard when you're that close to the hoop. It can be kind of difficult to get your, and I'm just coming up right where I would have come up. And hopefully now I can get the rocking motion. So I'm going up and up. And you can do one. You don't have to do multiple. Whatever is comfortable for you. And I'm actually at this point pushing with my fingernail instead of my, that's better. And I will warn you that if you do try to push with your fingernail, I have had it where the needle has slipped under my fingernail into the tender spot, and it hurts really bad. So I do not suggest that. I'm trying to get you a better angle here. You know, quilting, when you first start, it's overwhelming because you're just so worried that you're doing everything right. But there's not, I mean, it's your quilt. It can be whatever you want it to be. There's not like, oh, it has to be done this way or that way. You do it how you want it done. It's yours. Now, if you're going to start competing, like in shows or stuff, then yes, you need to do enough that you're going to gain the skills and follow, the guidelines. Over the years, I fell in love with quilting a long, long time ago, and I really had no idea how to start. So when my son was a baby, I just really wanted to make him a quilt, and I had no clue how to even start, and I didn't know anyone that quilted. So I started at a fabric store just purchasing a pre-printed panel. That's kind of hard to say. And I just started stitching around the pre-printed things on the panel. And I enjoyed that. I'm a little bit off, so I'm going to get a little closer. But I really craved doing the piecing and actually making the quilt. So we lived in North Carolina, and there was a lady there her family was here on a visa for college, and she could not work outside the home, and so she was from South Africa at the time. And I forgot to mention this too before I finish the story. As you're quilting, you always want to have this string the second string, you only want one thread in here. So you always have this one a little bit shorter so that it doesn't get caught up as you're stitching. Because you only have one, this is only one ply. So you have the second one, but it needs to be a little shorter. You keep shortening it as you go. Anyway, so this lady was a quilter. And so she offered to teach quilting in her home just as a way to make a little extra income to help her family. And I jumped on that because that was just a great thing. And so every week she would tell us what we needed. And every week we went to her home and I can't remember. I think we brought our sewing machines and we had an ironing area, a cutting area, all of the necessary things that you need for piecing. And we learned to make a different quilt block every week. And that is how I learned to quilt. And I actually still have my very first quilt. It was based out of a book. I'll have to look up the name of it. I think it was just like quilting, quilting, quilting. But it's a sampler quilt. So it went block by block and taught you. Now, since that time, of course, I've discovered a lot of what I call shortcuts, like you know when you're making things like flying geese and different things, or if you're doing rail fence, you know you can do strips and then cut your pieces from strips. So there's a lot of little shortcut ways to do like half square triangles and such. So I mean, there's always something new to learn. It never gets old. Now I'm at the end here where my hoop is, so I'm gonna have to orient my block. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but I'm gonna try to do it where you can see. So I'm just loosening up the hoop, and I'm gonna remove the hoop, and I need to move it where I can access this line as much as possible. So I'm going to move it here. So as you can see, here's where I'm at, and I'm going to need to go to the corner and turn and come this way. So I'm going to kind of go there, and then you just put your hoop back, and the pressure tightens up the fabric to give it the tautness that you need. And you just tighten up the little screw to get it tight. And you do want to make sure on the back that it's flat, that you don't have any puckers or anything in that area. Okay, so now we're right back where we were. Here, we're going to go to the corner. We're going to turn and go this side. But that's where I started. And probably maybe the year after that, while we lived in North Carolina, we had like this freak snowstorm. We had like 18, 20 inches of snow, and it shut everything down. We were only a few hours from the coast, so big snows like that we were not near the mountains. So this was not the norm, and the city did not have equipment and supplies to really deal with that. So for about a week, we were homebound. And I actually started working on my very first log cabin quilt while we were snowbound. And so that was my next quilt. Again, see how I'm kind of, if you can see, I'm in the corner, and this hoop is right here. It's kind of in the way, so I'm going to do like a stab stitch just to get turned. And I will tell you, I've made, I don't know how many quilts over the years. I don't claim to be a professional. I'm not, I'm sure there's things I do that are not great in the quilting world, but I do what works for me. And this is to have a craft, but also for relaxation. So I'm not going to make it stressful by trying to comply with all kind of rules and stuff. And again, I'm going to go in and up, fill the prick, go up, go in, fill the prick, push up. And so it's very repetitive. And so that's what we will do for this whole block. They make these little neat gadgets, if you're not a sewer, to help thread your needle. And you push this through the eye of the needle. It's not as easy as it looks, huh? You push it all the way through and it pops open. And then you take the end of your thread through the bigger little thing, and when you pull it through, it threads your needle. So that's just a little tip if you're not familiar with sewing. And so I'm going to continue down this corner. And again, my hand's underneath it so that I can feel the prick. And so I'm going to go down, feel the prick, and my finger underneath pushes it back up, and then this finger pushes it down. And then I'm going to put 2 on here, same thing, and rock back up. And there we go. Down, up, down, up. So I have this idea, and I never researched it to see if it's science-based or anything, but I think that we all have this capability within us, the desire to make something or create something. And I think that's one reason that quilting, for me, it's very, now see that one, I don't like that I left this huge gap, but I've got a seam here. So it's kind of, I'm going to cheat and go back one to leave a stitch there. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I think that we all have a desire to create things. And so when you're quilting, I think that's why it relaxes you, is because we all have a need to make something or to create something. I sleep under the log cabin quilt that I made years ago. It actually was so large. It's like an extra large king. And I knew that would take me, I don't even know how long to have hand quilted. So I actually sent that out to a long arm quilter, which, if you're not familiar, that's people that have the bigger sewing machines. They call them long arms, and they can put them on rollers, and then they can quilt a design and machine quilt your quilt. And since that quilt was so large, that's what I did. Now, granted, I guess prices probably vary depending on where you are in the country and depending on the size and everything of your quilt. This was when I lived in Pennsylvania, and it's been, oh gosh, quite a long time ago. 20 years maybe. Maybe not quite 20 years, but close. And it was about $125. So I'm not sure what the rates are today for having a machine quilted, having someone do it with a long arm quilted machine. I actually have a sewing machine that I bought at home in preparation for retirement one day, and I made sure that I got it with the big open throat, or the space between the machine and the needle, so that I could machine quilt some things there. As you can see, hopefully you can see, let me adjust this camera. Okay. I made it to the corner, and I've already quilted this part. Let me see if I can get this better. Okay. So I was just quilting down through here. I made it to the corner. This line has already been quilted. So my next thing will be a diagonal across the block. So all I'm going to do is the same thing, except there just won't be a line. It's I'm going to start right in the corner. And you can mark this. They make chalk pencils and fabric pens. They make them where you can wet it and the ink will disappear, or they make it where the air, like it'll just disappear after it's exposed to air for so long. But I'm just eyeballing corner to corner, just making sure that I'm kind of keeping a straight line. And there's where I'm going to be going, to this corner. And I love a beautiful quilt, but like I said, I'm not in it for, competition or awards or anything. I like the simplicity, so that I don't want it to become a stressful thing. I want it to, and you can use your thumb and kind of push down and helps that come up. Oh, now you see that happens sometimes. My needle came unthreaded. So all I'll do is pull my thread through, and I'm going to snip the end just so I have a good end to go through my needle. Just a little snip. I'm going to attempt it without my needle threader. Look at there. And so again, you're going to leave, the tail where it doesn't get caught up in the fabric. But I don't want my quilts and quilting to become stressful. Life is stressful enough. This is a de-stressor. So if you're a perfectionist, or you're, wanting to compete, then I'm probably not the person to watch. This is just for relaxation and to keep an old skill alive. And so I'm coming up. My thread, as you can see, is getting a little short. I think I can make it all the way to this corner. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a back stitch there and come up right in this thing. Okay, now I'm going to show you again how I did earlier. Okay, keep my needle threaded, and I'm going to just use my needle and put a knot about a 1/2 inch. If you can see it, the knot's here from where the stitch came out. You don't want huge space, but you want enough that you do bury it. And so hopefully you can see this knot. I'll put it, here's the knot, and here's the stitch. Okay, so then I'm going to take my hand underneath again, and I don't want to feel the prick. I don't want to go all the way through the fabric. I'm just going to slide it under the first fabric in the batting, and I want to come out an inch or so away. So you see I'm coming up way over here, and my knot, I'm going to just rub my fingernail while I'm pulling, and it pops, and it's hidden in the fabric now, so there's no knot on the surface. You don't want there to be a knot on the surface. And then this tail, I'll just pull kind of tight and clip, and it'll recede into the fabric. So it's hidden. So you won't be able to tell where my stitch started or where my stitch ended. Well, that's probably all I'm going to have time for right now, but I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this project, and I'll do some more. And especially when we start to figure out what design we want to do. I have done some where I did circles. You can do zigzag. You can do 1 down the middle, 2 down the middle. It's really just open to whatever you want to do. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and let's get together and quilt and chat again soon. So that's the basics of hand quilting. You can get as detailed as you like. You can do all kind of patterns. If you wanted to do some kind of like a fancy pattern, you could trace with a fabric pen a design and just follow the design with your thread. If I think about it, I'll add a picture on here to show you a different, how I did some sashings and stuff. But the thing for me with hand quilting is it's not only beautiful and it's a great skill to have, but it's relaxing and it really relieves stress. It helps you just have some downtime to think. And I think that's one thing that a lot of us are kind of missing today is some downtime. And I've used it to pray over many situations in my life, many people, whoever I'm usually making a quilt for. I spend time as I'm stitching thinking about that person and praying for that person. As mothers and wives, it's life can be stressful, you know. I guess I'm old fashioned because I think that if it was ideal, we could still be those keepers at home and not have to also be breadwinners, but life is what it is, and most of us are balancing a lot of things on our plates. Motherhood is beautiful, but it's challenging. And, you know, I think it's funny because I talk to some of my friends that have younger children, and I'm always telling them, you know, they're stressed out over things the young kids are doing because it is hard. You know, when a baby's born, it's a lot of work. The diapers, the feedings, the up all nights, and then when they start getting mobile and they're into everything, and you know, and you're having to watch them constantly. They're putting things in their mouths, and then as they even get older, just teaching them new things and teaching them manners and exploring the world. It is very exhausting, and I really always thought that was the hardest time of parenthood. But as I now am have three older children, I think teenager years are the hardest because the emotional aspect of it is part of it for me. Um, I think, you know, parenthood's hard at every age, and that's why we need each other. Moms need each other. I'm reading a book called The Turquoise Table, and it's about hospitality and forming those relationships and those friendships because they really are important and they do make your life fuller. And it really is nice to have a place that you can talk to another mom and get another perspective. So I just wanted to share a little bit of hand quilting with you, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you'll fall in love with quilting too. Thanks for watching. I'd love to ask you if you want to subscribe, hit the like button. I would love to see more of us gather here. Thank you.